What up, y'all? It's the Robot Watcher, grab your binoculars, and I'm back with another video. I've talked enough, I've tweeted enough, I've said enough, I've wore this enough. It's time for the Bryce Young video. Let's get into it. Now, today isn't going to be about his weapons, the surrounding cast. Oh, he was in the worst situation ever. We know all of that. Everybody has talked about that. Everybody knows all that. We're not going to talk about that. Today, we're talking about simply Bryce Young. What I think he does that can either help him be good in the league or differentiate him from being the average quarterback, or what he can or won't improve on that will make him fail. Now, first thing I want to mention is his stature. And the reason I put this specific word isn't because his size. Y'all know I don't really care about his size. He held up last season. He was just fine. But I see a lot of people talk about his arm strength and the velocity on his passes deeper downfield and how they die on him. I don't buy into that. I don't think he is an elite arm strength. I never thought that even coming out. I thought his arm strength was always similar to Joe Burrow. Now, I was incorrect that I thought CJ Stroud's arm strength was also similar to Joe Burrow. He has a much stronger arm than I thought he did. But still, similar to Joe Burrow to me. What the difference is, because of his stature, his slight frame, how small he is. When he doesn't have all his cleats in the ground, he doesn't have the elite arm, just straight arm power, only from his arm. Not his full body, not his full cleats in the ground, technique, everything down, and he drives the ball. Just his arm. He doesn't have enough to get it downfield. It often dies on him. Sometimes his accuracy is off. He overshoots guys, almost like he's throwing it away. When the pocket is collapsing to the point where he's not able to step into the throw or get his front foot down into the ground, or he's off balance or on his back foot, that's when you see the accuracy start to struggle. Like I said, he can overshoot guys. He can throw way over a guy's head that's not even close. Or when people talk about his arm not being strong enough, the ball can die on him. If he's running out of the pocket, he's throwing off one leg, or especially if he's throwing it while being hit. If he's being crushed, a lot of the times the ball dies on him, or he can just overshoot it because he just put too much on it because he doesn't have as much natural, just from shoulder to wrist, arm talent to get it there. It's not necessarily that he's too small to play in the NFL. He's going to get hurt. It's not necessarily that he has the weakest arm in the league. I don't believe that. That's a lie. I don't think that he's too small to play in the league. That's a lie. But I do think that his stature will prevent him from being in that upper echelon, maybe top 4 guys where they're just such difference makers with their arms and their arm strength, that those Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allens, Justin Herberts, those type of guys where it's like, hey, their arm can do whatever, and that's just a difference. I don't think he'll ever be that. Moving on, the next thing that I want to discuss, it was a big point to me, was something that can actually be improved. You can't improve his stature. Something you just can't improve. But his focused footwork that he has, focusing on his footwork. I think a lot of times, Bryce has what I called happy feet coming out. I have a tweet from 2022 or whenever it was a pre-draft process, things like that. He has very, very happy feet. And coming out, a lot of the pluses about him was, hey, his play extension. He's elusive. He can get around, run around, scramble around, and make a play out of nothing. But there's also some faults that come with that. One, I think his feet are way too happy sometimes. He doesn't get his cleats all the way into the ground when he throws, which affects his accuracy. He doesn't have a consistent rhythmic drop back that you can repeat over and over and over and over again. Somebody like a Drew Brees, who is a machine with their footwork. They're just every single time, boom, 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 get it out, boom, 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 get it out, and it's just replicated, which makes his accuracy much more consistent and much more focused. You feel what I'm saying? So I think because of his play extension ability, he has developed happy feet in his early football career. Now, I will say, from these OTA clips, it seems that Dave Canales has improved his drop back, because his feet are starting to be a little more wider. Most of his cleats are in the ground. Once again, they're in shirts, but that's usually when you fix these things. His cleats are in the ground. His shoulders are no longer parallel to the line of scrimmage. He's actually turning his shoulder and getting it back into his drop with much more rhythm to, line up with routes and things like that. I mean, you gotta think with your footwork, the way that they set up these route concepts, there's a reason there's a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step drop. Is because it's mirrored with the route concepts. So if your footwork is off, you're either going to be too early to throw, now you have to hold the ball, hitch, or you're not going to be ready to throw. So I think a lot of the times Bryce misreads, not because he didn't see it, but because his feet weren't ready to throw, or his accuracy was off because his feet weren't ready to throw, and he's kind of just all arming it and not having all his cleats in the ground, things like that. So that affected his accuracy a lot to me. The last thing I want to talk about from things that'll hold him back, and it's something I think he can also improve on, just like his footwork, unlike his stature, consistency in his strengths. Bryce, it was really savvy coming out. Really savvy in his rookie year. He can manipulate defenders. He can look a safety off. He can kind of draw guys out of here, see concepts, defensive concepts before they happen. But the quarterbacking things where he's giving shoulder fakes, he's faking with his eyes, he's not staring down DBs all the time. He wasn't as consistent. Like I said, with Drew Brees, it's a machine. Everything's right. Everything's the same way every single time. He has to be more consistent in those strengths. If you're going to be playing, if you're going to be facing cover 2 and you're trying to get that hole shot, like he did against the Saints, where he was able to give him a shoulder fake, look off the safety, and fit it in that hole with good velocity. By the way, talking about his stature and arm strength, you have to be able to do that once again on the next play. I mean, I want to say it was against Detroit later on in the year, where he has that same look, same concept. The flat doesn't draw the defender out as much, but he doesn't give any fakes. He doesn't do anything. He sees the flat defender, but for some reason, he still tries to fit it in there. Now, I will say Bryce was super safe with the ball. You don't have to worry about him being super reckless with the ball. He was safe with the ball most of the time. But you also have to, if you're going to take these calculated risks, you have to do the quarterbacking that's necessary to get that flat defender to pull down to the underneath route like you did against the Saints. Things like that, where he's drawing the defenders away from the route that he's trying to get it to. Be more consistent in the stuff that you're good at like that. Also, be consistent in stepping up in the pocket or knowing what to do in the pocket. There were times where I felt that, hey, Bryce, you could have easily stepped up in the pocket right there and maybe made a throw or just got away with it. And he's shown the ability to step up in the pocket and either escape or make a play. So it's not like he can't do it. He has that ability. It's just you got to be more consistent in those strengths. And if he doesn't fix those 3 things, I don't think he'll ever be a terrible quarterback. I think his rookie season was an anomaly, yes, because of the help. I think he could be an average quarterback at best. At worst, at worst, he'll be an average quarterback if he doesn't fix these things. But he could be much more if he just fixed these 2 simple things that he can't fix. But if he fixed these 2 things, consistency in his strengths, become a machine like Drew Brees was, focused in his footwork, he'll be great. But now it's my time. I'll let y'all haters get this little first part of the video, but now it's my time to get my ish off, get my rocks off. Let's talk about the good stuff he does that'll separate him from the pack. And I'm gonna go ahead and apologize now if this video is super long, because I'm going to be super long-winded, I feel like, because I watched a lot of tape. I probably watched another 9 games. I watched all the tape from this year up until maybe like week 14. I was like, hey, I just don't give a F no more. Maybe week 14, 15. But I grinded a lot of tape. I watched the games I didn't watch. I watched another 4 or 5 games. So I was 9, 10 games in. I got a lot of clips that I want to use. So I'm going to be long-winded. First thing I want to talk about, Bryce is a headhunter. Don't get it confused with last year, where I think his confidence was zapped a little bit, and he was his confidence was zapped a little bit after the first game of the year where he threw those 2 picks, and then guys weren't getting separation downfield. They weren't calling too many downfield concepts. Guys were sitting on routes, so I think his confidence was zapped a little bit. He got a little bit more comfortable after Frank Reich was fired, and he was able to take more shots downfield, but still wasn't who he usually was. Because at Bama, Bryce was a headhunter. Bryce, excuse my French, Bryce ain't pussy. Simple as that. Bryce ain't pussy. He will put the ball downfield. He will take risks. He will throw it in between 2 guys. He will throw it into tight windows. Underneath, he'll throw it in between 2 guys if the window is there. He has the velocity to fit it in that window. Get it in there. He has the velocity to make far-hash throws against tight coverage, things like that. But also, downfield at Bama, Bryce was a monster when he had Jameson Williams, John Mechie. He wasn't pussy. He was throwing the ball downfield when the field was stretched. He has the ability to go get those big plays. And he showed it last year. There were times where maybe Steven Sullivan, however you say his name, he had a DB draped all over him. Hey, I don't give a F. I'm putting it back shoulder. I'm going to throw it to the back shoulder where the DB can't get it. I'm going to give my bigger body target. Maybe it's not 40 yards downfield, but a good 15, 20, that's a deep pass usually in the NFL. This isn't Madden, by the way. 20 yards downfield is a deep pass. That's a chain mover. Anyways, Yeah, he's going to throw a back shoulder to Stephon Sullivan and say, hey, you go up and grab it off that DB because you can go get it. Take it off of that. DJ Chark, most of the time Bryce finally showed the confidence to be a headhunter like he was before. It was with DJ Chark. I think when DJ Chark was signed, a lot of Panther fans had a confusion that he was speed. He's going to separate, get deep. I did too a little bit. But after all the injuries that he is now, DJ Chark is mostly a jump ball contested catch guy. So once Bryce got the understanding of that later on into the year, oh man, he's chucking that thing downfield. I mean, whether it was the Tampa games, whether it was the the Tennessee games, I think he had a couple that he had DJ Chark, especially the Jaguars game. Don't get me started on that Packers game. Bryce is a headhunter. He's throwing it downfield where Chark is contested. He's throwing it back shoulder to Chark. He's coming off the scramble, just throwing it up, getting it over the head of the defender. The defender's head is turned. He's throwing a missile onto Chark's chest to get it into him onto the sideline in that Packers game, you know, to trying to get to a game time field goal and get overtime. But he was giving Chark chances downfield. Sometimes Chark caught him. Most of the time he didn't. But sometimes his foot was out of bounds, things like that. But I mean, he's not pussy, and I think somebody like Xavier Leggo will help him. Once again, it's not about the weapons, but he is a headhunter. He's not somebody like Tua, who's going to be mostly a game manager, and he's going to have to take a shot when Tyreek Hill has 3, 4, 5 yards of separation. He will throw it up if he needs to. Next thing I want to talk about, poise under pressure. Bryce never, ever, and I'm talking about from Bama, when I watched the Bama film, but the year before he was even eligible to be drafted, I've been watching him for this long on film, all 22, him and CJ. He's never looked panicked. Whether it was a close game, late game situation, whether they were getting blown out, whether they were up, whether he was under pressure, whether he was under duress, he's never looked super panicked. He had a couple plays last season where it was like, oh, why are you making that decision under pressure? But most of the time, he's poised. He knows where all his receivers are. He knows where his check down is. He most of the time knows where the pressure is coming from. And man, this is where he shines to me. He will look in the face of pressure and throw it exactly where it's coming from. You bring pressure from the middle, he's going to throw it over the middle with no issue. If you bring pressure from the outside, he's going to be able to step up or maybe loop around, make you miss, and create a play off the extension of that, or kick it, make a guy miss, get it to his check down if he needs to. He doesn't have a problem with guys getting up in his grill. I know a lot of quarterbacks, like a Sam Darnold, for Panthers fans to relate to, where once the pressure is there, man, it's like they're just blank. They don't know what the concepts are. They don't know what to do with the ball. They're just winging it. Bryce never wings it. He always knows where his check down is. He always knows where his receivers are going to end up on the route at least. He always, like I said, he always knows where his check down is. He always has an alley to step up or step out of the pocket. Now, is he consistently always taking the correct alley? That's one thing or another. But most of the time, he is always able to step up into pressure, scramble when he needs to scramble, especially later on into the year. He got so much better at just scrambling when he needed to scramble. But the best of all, if you're sending a blitz, the first thing I learned about quarterbacking, and I didn't play quarterback, I played defense. So don't take that as I play quarterback, so I know about quarterbacks. But the first thing I've learned about quarterbacking was simply on ESPN, where Tom Brady talks about how when the pressure is coming, you usually throw to the pressure, because that means there's a hole in the defense right there where that defender was usually going to be, especially in a zone blitz. You throw into that. So Bryce has that intact, where if the pressure is coming from the middle of the field, he can hit that easily. If the pressure is coming, he feels it, he's able to step up easily. He's able to just stay calm. He's able to make plays instead of panicking and putting the ball in harm's way. Next one. His pocket presence and movement. I think a very underrated trait, which I learned from the franchise guy, shout out to him. Very underrated trait when it comes to quarterbacks that I don't necessarily know if can be fixed, but most of the time, if you have bad pocket presence, you just have it. And it can improve, but not enough to maybe make a difference in your career, to where it's like, hey, he came into the league with bad accuracy, now he's really, really accurate. Shout out to Josh Allen. But pocket presence and movement, when you can manipulate a pocket, people talk about Brady not being mobile, but he was really, really good at sack avoidance and maneuvering around pressure with his lack of athleticism, because he was so good at moving and manipulating the pocket. He can step up, he can step over, he can shift outside of his lineman, he can find a new lane to throw into, things like that. Bryce has it. Bryce easily, he's shown, I talked about earlier when I was talking about his happy feet, he's shown where in college, one of his biggest selling trait was his ability to move in the pocket, get outside the pocket, make a play out of nothing. That comes from his pocket presence and movement. Those eyes in the back of your head to feel when there's a defender bearing down on you. Okay, it's time for me to step up. To know, hey, instead of maybe scrambling outside and running into a sack, which he did a couple times in the rookie year, we talked about his consistency and the things that he's good at. But instead of scrambling outside, running into a sack, or leaving a clean pocket, you know, hey, maybe I just need to step up. Maybe I need to step up, shift to the left. Maybe all I need to do is shift to the left with the pocket since the pressure is coming from the right. Move over a little bit, create new lanes for me to throw on. We talked about his stature, and that's why he's so good at throwing over the middle, which would usually be a struggle for shorter quarterbacks. It's because he's able to maneuver and manipulate the pocket to find throwing lanes in between his offensive linemen over the middle of the field. That's where he's best at. And this kind of goes into the last point. His elusiveness and play extension. I never understood why there was this narrative that he's not going to be a rushing threat, or his playmaking ability wouldn't translate to the next level. When you're watching him in college, he's not out athleting guys. So I don't need you to, I never understood where, hey, guys are better athletes. Ooh, okay, cool. That's not what he's doing. He just has this simple elusiveness where these slight shoulder movements, this slight, hey, cut back here, the great dead leg that he has, the slight jukes, the stopping on a dime. It doesn't matter how fast you are or how great of acceleration you have. If you're able to just stop on a dime and go back the opposite way, that's the elusiveness that Bryce has. Whether he's in the pocket, whether he's running. He showed a couple of rushing plays, long 20, 30, 40-yard rushing plays on the goal line where he's able to get the extra 2-point conversion because he's extending the play with his legs, stopping, starting, making a guy miss, juking, spinning on guys, making guys just look silly. It's been plenty of games where I'm watching, he got people like Demario Davis proposing to him. I want to say Ryan Neal for the Buccaneers. Damn near touched earth. Like, he has these guys on the ground, and that's his elusiveness and his ability to extend plays. You talk about guys like Tua. The reason that guys like Tua are limited, because after his hip injury, he wasn't as mobile. He's not as mobile in the pocket. He's not as mobile when it comes to play extension. Whenever he's off script, you're in trouble. But whenever he's on script and the offense is running well, that's great. Those are system guys. Bryce, whenever he's off script, that's usually when he was the best in college. So now you pair that with, hey, if we're just on script, we just need you to be a point guard, woo, and in a couple of plays, we need you to go off script and be old Bryce. That's what's going to separate him from being just an average or above average quarterback. I personally, jumping out the window, I don't give a damn. Whenever I scouted Bryce, the first thing I said was he reminds me of Joe Burrow. He's Joe Burrow coming out. Arm strength, pocket movement, head hunting ability downfield, accuracy. He reminds me of Joe Burrow. I still think he can be that. I don't really care about what happened last year. We all know circumstances. Ooh, I still think he can be that. I just watched all these 10 games of tape. He still has it in there. He's shown the flashes. If anybody told you he didn't show flashes, they're lying. They're just a hater. They're lying. Because he's shown plenty of flashes. I think he can still be, maybe not a top, like I said, upper echelon, top 5 QB because of those limitations with his stature and arm strength, things like that. But I still think he can be a top 10 quarterback. Maybe it's to the lower end of the top 10. Maybe it's 7, 8, 9. Maybe. But that's fine. The Rams just won a Super Bowl with the ninth best 10, somewhere around 10, 12 to 9 in that area with Matthew Stafford. I've seen other guys who are, Nick Foles has won a Super Bowl, things like that. If you build a good team around those guys, I think Bryce Young can elevate a team more than Nick Foles can. I think he can elevate a team to the level of maybe a Matt Stafford could if you give him good weapons also. So I still believe that he could be a top 10, especially a top 15 QB. And if you give him a correct help, if you build a good squad around him, he'll be able to get you deep into the playoffs. He'll maybe be able to win your Super Bowl. He'll win a couple of awards. I think this year, I'm putting a smooth $20 down to win. I think $1,100 or something like that. A smooth $20 down for him to win Comeback Player of the Year. With Dave Canales helping him with these new adjusted weapons where if they pan out, I don't know. But I think he'll just be a lot more confident and get that head-hunting ability back with guys who can create more separation like DJ Johnson and an explosive downfield threat like Xavier Leggett. Or Leggett. Sorry, my bad, XL. Leggett, X-Man. But yeah, man, that's just how I feel. I just feel like I've watched enough film, man. I've been watching this guy for 3 years now at this point. I know what I see on the tape. It's as simple as that. You can believe, you can don't. If he doesn't improve at those other things, like I said, his floor is an average quarterback. Simple as that. But if he can improve on the consistency in his strengths, if he can improve on his footwork and being a machine with his footwork, watch out, because we're coming. Put up the binoculars. I'm out. See y'all next week.